really kind of crazy cool. They dug all this stuff out of a cave to make room. Very cool.
The other side, there's even a third secret use. Thank you. You're very kind to share your secrets. Yeah, back scratcher is the third use. Excellent multi-tool. We got.
We're entering into the synagogue, a replica at least. And this is really kind of cool to see a replica of the synagogue we're entering into.
Lots of room here. Feel free to have a seat on the sides if you want. Welcome to our full-size replica of a first century synagogue. Again, we made all these buildings from scratch. The logo stone is limestone. Okay, it's relatively white. You set it up in columns like this, you put them in rows, and this is to support a larger roof system to build a bigger building like this. In the olive press, the first building we saw, there were stone arches for the same reason. Okay, this floor is not concrete. You cook up crushed up limestone in a wood fire, and you purify it into lime, and you have ashes from the wood. You add earth and water, make a mud mixture, roll it flat with a stone roller, dry it in the sun, and you got our floor. Similar things are used to plaster the walls and the stairs, and also above the reeds in the roof. Okay, Luke chapter 4. Jesus comes back to Nazareth where he grew up, to the synagogue on the Sabbath day, which was his custom. He stands up to read. He's handed the scroll of the prophet Isaiah. He opens it up and he finds the place where it says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives, recovery of sight to the blind, to set the oppressed free, and to declare the year of the favor of the Lord." He rolls up the scroll, he gives it back to the guy in charge, he sits back down, everybody's staring at him, and he begins by saying, "Today, these holy writings have become fulfilled in your hearing." Many of the people are actually sort of amening like some of you. They're saying, look at the gracious words that are coming out of his mouth. So what is it that they understand? What's so gracious about this? Well, there's a key word here, anointed, right? Mashiach, Messiah, Christ, right? That's not a last name, right? Anointed with oil and with God's Holy Spirit. Don't think little thingy, on your forehead. Think a whole horn going down. Psalm 133 with it going down the beard of Aaron and onto his clothes, right? Okay, and with God's Holy Spirit for a special purpose, right? I am the Savior who the prophets have foretold, and I've come to save you, my Jewish people. And there's going to be healings and good news for the poor and freedom from oppression. Ooh, this sounds really good. Who are they oppressed by? The Romans. But remember, the Romans are just the last in a long list of foreign empires who've dominated them for nigh on half a millennium. They're sick and tired of foreigners. Okay, Jesus, are you gonna finally bring the kingship to Israel? Are you gonna be the victorious king who's gonna get rid of the Romans now? Nope. Jesus doesn't go in the direction of political change. He changes directions, at least in their sight, right, to the book of Kings. But instead of talking about David or Solomon or some kind of victorious king, he talks about a widow. Oh, this is an interesting story. There's a widow here who's about to starve in a terrible famine. She has enough oil and flour to mix together to make one piece of bread, and then she's going to die. God does a miracle for her. They just keep coming out of their containers day after day after day. Wonderful. She's saved from starvation. Nice. God is doing miracles. Another miracle story. Naaman. Naaman had a horrible disease, leprosy, ruining his life. No problem for God. God heals him just like that. Two stories of God's miraculous intervention in difficult circumstances. So what's the problem? Why are the people getting mad at Jesus for this? They're both not Jewish. Well, wait a minute. It gets worse than that. Who is Naaman? What does he do for a living? I'm sorry? He's a Syrian. That makes him a foreigner. Okay? It just makes him a foreigner. Who is he in Syria? General. He's a general. He's not only a general, he's the general. He's the commander-in-chief of the whole host of Syria. Just a second, Jesus. What are you trying to say? Your plan of salvation is to heal and save the Roman generals? You're supposed to get rid of them. You're not supposed to save them. You're supposed to be saving us. We're the ones oppressed. Where have you been, Jesus? See, what Jesus is teaching goes entirely against what they're hoping for and expecting. And this is why they immediately reject this. In fact, they're probably thinking, he's some kind of false Messiah after all, which means he deserves death. Chances are they think they're doing a good thing to take him and throw him off a cliff, which is what Luke tells us they want to do. But Luke also says they don't succeed. He just, without explanation, says Jesus just walks through the angry crowd and he leaves Nazareth. Yep, that's your cue.
Problem when they lower the paralytic man through the roof, because the whole roof has been removed. It's not in tile roof or shingles. Now, an insula. An insula, I mentioned in Greek, means island. And what it is a family compound of many, many rooms. 6 or 8 storerooms, 6 or 8, 10 or more sleeping rooms. They would have a smoother floor. Wealthier people would have mattresses. Poorer people would have big robes. There would be a central courtyard. There would be a guest chamber. There would be utility rooms for cooking, for washing, and this was call it the family enclosure. Okay, so try to understand that this town in Jesus' time would have insula that were 2 or 3 stories high. And because the local building material was not wood, was not cast concrete, but was the columnar basalt, the basaltic rock, that volcanic rock that you can see the columnar pieces. Here you can see a synagogue from, let's say, 1500 years ago that's made out of local limestone, but if you look over here in this insula, you can see some of the columnar basalt that you make either a window wall, an internal wall, or an arch that can support a 2nd or a 3rd floor. So understand that people want to keep the rooms as big as possible, but they don't want the floor to collapse above them. So try to understand that this was a live-in situation. that Jesus was living here with the disciples' families. Again, the spouses and children are assumed. In antiquity, no one traveled alone. When it says Jesus went to Jerusalem, you have to understand at the very least, his whole extended family went, at the very least, if not his whole village went with him. So pilgrimage holidays, travelers understand that hospitality was so important because it's not you, it's you and your whole family. Everybody has to eat, rest. Okay, so let me just give you an idea. Travel in antiquity, you're doing between 20 and 30 miles a day. Your feet are very important, and Jesus is actually showing by example the importance of washing people's feet. He is washing people's feet, and this is very, very important. Like today, you stop at a gas station, you take care of your car because your life depends on it. So your life depended on your mobility, on your feet. So very, very important in the insula. This is your community. And in the Mishnah, a lot of the Mishnah are mundane rules of getting along in the insula because everybody there is connected, family connection in the insula. So again, what goes around comes around. You don't want to speak badly about anyone there because, again, they didn't have cell phones, but what goes around comes around. And so Lashon Hara, speaking bad about people, is a very, very important concept that people should follow. Roof, how to roll the roof. If you have these big, heavy basaltic rollers, after it rains, you have to get the humidity out or the roof will collapse. And if you do it the wrong way, that roller can fall and hurt somebody, and the somebody will be a relative. Okay, so not that hurting someone, relative or not, is no less of a bad thing, but we have a lawyer here, so negligent homicide is not something that, you want to take precaution. You want to make extra sure that nobody is hurt. Okay, so a lot of accidents happen around the home. Okay, that goes way back to biblical times, where simple laws of consideration of the people on the other side of the wall are very, very important. So not everything is, the great spiritual teaching of Jesus. A lot of things are just simple consideration for other people in the house, other people that you should take into consideration so we don't hurt anyone, etc., etc. So the insula was the most basic form of the extended family. Let's go down to the area that this relatively new church building. Jesus got out of the boat. A man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. Okay, so obviously the tombs are not in the middle of the city. This man lived in the tombs and no one could bind him, not even with a chain. How do we know there's tombs? Because Jews did not cremate. Okay, so when you find human ashes, you know they're Roman tombs and not Jewish tombs. Okay, so you know it's a pagan city. This would be out of the city. The man wasn't in the center of the city. And no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain, for he had been chained head to foot, but he tore the chains apart, broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. Again, we're going to pass the area today it's an agricultural road. I mean, we could drive up it. The only place where you find flint is near those, just outside those tombs in that road. When you go up to the city where the people lived, that is the only area where you find flint. Flint is a very sharp stone. So when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice. Okay, so that would have happened about a few miles to the south of us. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." For who had seen it? Wait, did I miss it? Jesus said to him, no, did I miss it? No. Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" Listen to what he replies. Remember, we said this was an ancient road. They found milestones here. Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legio, Legion." "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. Okay, we are on a nearby hillside. It might be to the south, much more likely to the north. So the nearby hillside, a herd of pigs was feeding on the hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them." Understand that pigs represent for Jews something that's unclean. It's one of the animals specifically prohibited to eat. It's mentioned specifically. We have rules for what you can and cannot eat. It gives you rules, and then it gives you specific exceptions, okay? Like camels. Camels chew their cud, but they don't have split hooves. Pigs have split hooves. Right. Chew their cud, but you're not allowed to eat them. He gave them permission, and the impure spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave the region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, understand that we didn't hear about any of the disciples getting out of the boat. Okay, they were staying in the boat. Safe distance. Okay? As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. Okay? I'm sure the disciples would have loved him to come with him. Okay? Jesus did not let him. Probably looked at the faces of the disciples and said, "I don't think so," and don't think that would work. Okay? Jesus did not let him, but said, "Go home to your own people and tell them how much God has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and all the people were amazed. All the people were amazed. Here this man brings over his followers, his disciples, and they come over. They are in shock. They're going to them. Get out of the boat, heal the man. "Can I come with you?" "I don't think so." And so he goes.
So it's likely that
Took
this
the opportunity.
is the cliff.
His
That
wife
the
told him to go do
pigs
something useful.
Fell off straight off. This is the only place that there's a straight fall off of a cliff. That's kind of cool.
We are here. It actually happened. This is the actual water that Christ walked on. This is the actual water that Peter Cross walked on. This is the sea that Yeshua calmed with his word. The wind that we can feel on our necks and on our ears is the very wind that Christ silenced. There's nothing like being here.
Hey, this is
Coach Tina FJ, and we're almost to the other side. We're crossing the Sea of Galilee, and it's an experience of vacation that you have to take. You have to find some time to get to Israel and experience the things of Christ. This is where Jesus knew walked across the beach, a place on the boat, and Peter got out of the boat. He got out. He had the faith to get out of the boat and walk on the water. What are you going to have a faith to do? What are you going to have to make a faith look like?
I'm supposed to bring you guys down
This
to
is
the
the grain silo. You can look at the engineering of it. They had to use different kind of rocks in different shapes and forms so that when they plastered over it, it wouldn't collapse. But the grain would sit down in this silo, and they would use big pots to lift it out, and the king would be in control of the grain. Yes, this is and this is where Saul was chasing after David, and he was hiding up in the caves. And we are at Engedi. It was really kind of cool. Coach Tina FJ hanging out where Saul and David were playing hide and seek. I'm standing at the Dead Sea. And in my mind, I thought the sea was dead. So I expected the water to be more brownish. I don't know. It was just in my head, not thinking about, the location and how the water would be a blue color. Uh, the salt content in the Dead Sea is about 9 times that of the ocean. They say don't get it in your mouth. You can only stay in it for about 10 minutes. And that, if you have any cuts or things, it might sting, but the water is actually really supposed to be good for you. So as you can see, I'm just hanging out here at the Dead Sea in Israel.
there, sister.
Go Tina. Go Tina.
It's your birthday, not a holiday.
I actually have my hand in the Jordan River, and boy, it is a little bit cold and chilly. Oh my goodness. Huh. Ooh, it is a little chilly today. It's warm outside, but the water here in the Jordan is a bit chilly. But it's a historical day to be standing in a location where Jesus actually got baptized in the Jordan River. This is the site of the pool of Siloam. This is where the blind man, Jesus said the blind man, when he healed his sight. This is, Jesus was here, I'm here. This was a special treat. We got to get a behind the scenes tour of this place.
Thank you.
An archaeological shift. No, an archaeological system.
Or a son. Just like her spiritual names, her biblical namesake, she had no sons. Unlike her biblical namesake, she had daughters. She tried many times to have sons, unsuccessful. The doctors already told her after a bunch of miscarriages to stop it, and yet she doesn't listen to them. She comes over here to this site, and she pours out her soul, and a year later she gives birth to a son, whom she names him Samuel. When Samuel was 13 years old, he comes over here from Miami, Florida, in order to celebrate his bar mitzvah, together with the 13-year-olds over here of this place. When he was 18, he too, just like his biblical namesake, goes and helps out the Jewish people the same way that Samuel did, and he comes and he joins the Israeli army. A few years later, the family want other people to hear about this miracle that happened to them, and about prayer that isn't something of the past, but of the present, and no place like the present. And they donated this structure over here, where in moments you'll see, as if the tabernacle is still standing right over there in front of us.
Back at the foot of Mount Sinai, we were commanded for the first time to build a tabernacle. And in fact, after the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, the tabernacle was built. The tabernacle is a portable, temporary temple. But for 39 years, it accompanied us in our wanderings through the desert, taken apart, and reassembled again and again. After entering the Holy Land, Joshua established the tabernacle in Shiloh. The Shiloh tabernacle is built of a stone foundation and wooden beams, and covered by layers of fabric, a combination symbolizing the transition from a temporary tabernacle to a more permanent one. Shiloh is to be the dwelling place of the Shekhinah, the divine presence, the holiest site for the Jewish people for 369 years. The tabernacle was comprised of two main parts, the courtyard and the tabernacle tent. The tabernacle courtyard was rectangular, 100 cubits in length by 50 cubits in width, about 50 meters by 25 meters. In the heart of the courtyard stood the altar, made of wood overlaid with copper. On it burned the eternal fire, on which sacrifices, meal offerings, and wine offerings were made every single day. Since it is forbidden to ascend the altar by stairs, the Kohanim, the priests, ascended by a ramp. Before the Kohanim begin the tabernacle service, they would purify their hands and feet in the copper laving basin which stood between the altar and the tabernacle tent. It is said that when the contributions for the tabernacle were collected in the desert, all the women donated their copper mirrors from which the laving basin was made. First thing in the morning, the Kohanim entered the tabernacle tent, the sanctuary, for the day's service. Twice a day they burned incense on the gold-plated incense altar. A blend of 11 special spices, which were placed on the coals, and whose wonderful perfume wafted far into the distance. Once a week, 12 special loaves of bread were placed on the golden table, which stood at the north end of the sanctuary. The secret method of preparing the showbread was passed down from father to son. Every evening, the candles of the seven-branched menorah, which stood in the south across from the table, were kindled. The menorah was made of a single piece of solid gold and ornamented with flower-like cups, buds, and blossoms. At the tip of every branch was a receptacle into which pure olive oil was poured. Ever since, the menorah has been one of the symbols of the Jewish nation. Only once a year, on Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, entered the Holy of Holies. In the Holy of Holies stood the Ark of the Covenant, on top of which were the curtain and the two cherubs. The cherubs were in the form of two angels, facing each other, with wings outstretched over the Ark. Inside the Ark were the tablets of the covenant, the first tablets which were broken by Moses, and the second, unbroken tablets. The tablets and the broken tablets lie inside the ark. This is the place from which God's voice is heard. And I will speak to you from above the ark cover, between the two cherubs, which are above the ark of the covenant. The tabernacle is a place of meeting, where man meets himself, where man meets his brothers and his people, where man meets his Creator. There is much more to it than meets the eye. The clues and secrets hidden in every part of the tabernacle and its vessels are many and lofty. For 369 years, the tabernacle dwelt in Shiloh until the city was destroyed by the Philistines. It then wandered until Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem. But to this very day it is said, if you stand where the tabernacle stood and take a deep, deep breath, you can smell, if only for a moment, the scent of the incense which still suffuses the walls.
Wow.
Hey, this is Coach Tina FJ, and we are at Shiloh. This is where the Ark of the Covenant was for 349 years before the attack. Oh my goodness, this is actually where God showed himself in the Ark. This is amazing to actually be standing in the place where God revealed himself to his people. We are at Shiloh, looking at the archaeological site, undisputed.